Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
Tonight's Big Stories. Visiting his father at the Libingan ng mga Bayani, President Bongbong Marcos maintained his silence and refused to comment once more on Vice President Sara Duterte's tirades against him.
Former Senator Sonny Trillanes says the International Criminal Court has duly received the transcript of the Senate hearing on the war on drugs and will now begin validating the information.
And Senator Imee Marcos warns of rapid and significant policy shifts following this year's U.S. presidential elections. She says the Philippines has missed out on major investment despite being friendlier with Washington.
Well, it is All Saints' Day, and as tradition goes, thousands of Filipinos troop to cemeteries nationwide to remember their departed loved ones.
And so it was for President Bongbong Marcos and former First Lady Imelda Marcos, who visited the Libingan ng mga Bayani to lay flowers at the tomb of former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr.
That place is, of course, symbolic of the once powerful but short-lived alliance between the Marcoses and the Dutertes. So naturally, the president was asked about Vice President Sara Duterte once more. Maricel Halili has the big story.
President Bongbong Marcos and former First Lady Imelda Marcos visited the Libingan ng mga Bayani or Hero Cemetery today to visit the grave of former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Recall that it was former President Rodrigo Duterte who had allowed Marcos Sr. to be buried there with full military honors in 2016, giving closure to his family. And so reporters who were trailing BBM had to ask him about Vice President Sara Duterte's threat to dig up the late dictator's remains. But the president maintained his silence.
I'd rather not, thank you. I don't think
But do you think, sir, the statement is uncalled for? Is it uncalled for, the statement of VP Sara?
Marcos likewise deflected when asked about the current state of his relationship with Duterte.
Let's talk about it some other time.
This is the second time he's refused to say anything about all the things Vice President Sara said against him during her nearly 2-hour-long press conference on October 18. Apart from the threat to exhume, Duterte also said at the time that she had dreamt of cutting Bongbong Marcos's head off. But when first asked about it last week during the anniversary of the Coast Guard, Marcos simply smiled and walked away. So far in his immediate family, only his son, Ilocos Norte 1st District Representative Sandro Marcos, has publicly reacted to the tirade, calling her behavior a bizarre temper tantrum and saying she crossed the line. Today at the Libingan ng mga Bayani, a mass was held at Marcos Sr.'s gravesite, attended by loyalists. Marcos Sr. is one of the only 5 former Philippine presidents buried at the Libingan ng mga Bayani. Since yesterday, over 20,000 people have visited here, almost double last year's number. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
In other cemeteries around the country, it's a different kind of muck that people had to deal with today. In Macabebe, Pampanga, visitors to San Rafael Cemetery literally had to ride their boats to get to their loved ones. Floods inside the graveyards can go from knee-deep to more than 5 feet high. In many areas inside, the water is also smelly and murky. That didn't stop children, though, from diving into the dirty floodwaters to get candles. Flooding is not actually new to Macabebe. In fact, authorities admit that it has been their problem for a decade now. They can only hope that the Integrated Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Change Adaptation Project, which President Bongbong Marcos himself inaugurated last August, would help fix the problem.
Yun nga ang sakit ng loob eh. Ang ganda-ganda ng bahay, yung tanawin niya tubig. Patay na nga, nalulunod pa sila sa tubig.
In Laurel, Batangas, residents had to cross a huge river just to get to the cemetery. There used to be a bridge there, but it was damaged by severe tropical storm Christine. The cemetery itself was buried in thick mud and sludge, some of which had already solidified. Many of the tombs can't be recognized, and residents had to weave through debris and bring shovels and pickaxes, or whatever tools they have, just to clear the mud.
Wala naman po talaga ding magagawa. talagang dinaanan po kami nito. Wala po, tanggap lang po talaga.
Kumbaga kahit anong hirap, pipilitin naming makarating at mapuntahan ng aming magulang.
Former Senator Antonio Sonny Trillanes says the transcript of the Senate hearing on the war on drugs has been quote-unquote duly received by the International Criminal Court. That hearing took place just this Monday, during which former President Rodrigo Duterte dropped some bombshells, including that he had ordered police to encourage drug suspects to fight back to justify their killings. Trillanes told our sister program Storycon that the International Court does not need a certified copy of the transcript from the Senate, as they have their own validation process.
Yung ICC, meron po silang proseso ng validation. Kasi nga, ang assumption nila is a government may not be cooperative, may be hostile. So itong mga ito, kung hindi nila ibigay yung certification, therefore hindi na aandar. Hindi po. The way the ICC investigations work, meron silang sariling validation process. Kaya itong po mga sinasabi ng mga abogado dito sa Pilipinas, hindi po yan.
There is also the question of whether or not Duterte's testimony will mean anything or can be used against him, given that he gave conflicting statements at times. For instance, on the question of whether or not there was a Davao death squad, Duterte gave different answers 3 different times, and the senators did not press him on which one was true. Trillanes says it doesn't matter, as his conflicting statements will hurt his credibility during trial.
Pagkadating sa trial, ito na ngayon, ilalatag na yung mga iba't ibang testigo po laban sa kanya. Tapos, pagka-turn niya na, magde-defend siya, sasabihin niya yung kanyang depensa, pero gagamitin itong mga statements niya against him. Whether hindi nagre-reconcile yan, it will still go against his credibility. Kasi, teka muna, inamin mo na meron death squad inamin mo na. How can he undo that? Tapos, early on, mas mabigat yung statement niya. When he was still president, the video that we sent was wherein he said on national TV that his order is shoot to kill and that he doesn't care about human rights.
Are we ready for the U.S. presidential election? That question is not for me. That is the title of a statement released today by the office of Senator Imee Marcos, chair of the Committee on Foreign Relations. In it, Marcos warns of quote-unquote rapid and significant shifts post-November 5, which is when the Americans vote for their next president. She says stricter U.S. immigration policies could lead to the deportation of thousands of undocumented Filipinos, while efforts to bring American companies back on shore may decrease direct investments and reduce BPO jobs in the country. Marcos also says her brother's administration has missed out on major foreign investments despite friendlier ties with Washington. She cited as examples Procter & Gamble investing $100 million to expand in Vietnam, Microsoft sinking $1.7 billion in Indonesia to boost their artificial intelligence and cloud facilities, and Google committing $1 billion to build a data center and accelerate AI growth in Thailand. As for defense, Senator Marcos says it's unclear whether the next U.S. president will continue the aggressive expansion of U.S. military presence in the Philippines and maintain the current level of defense funding assistance. Given this uncertainty, she says the government should fully implement the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Revitalization Act as soon as possible for the country to be capable of fending for itself. Okay, let's try to hash that out a bit further. Our first guest tonight is our resident political analyst, Ronald Llamas, who joins us live via Zoom. Where are you, Ronald? There you are. Good evening. Thanks for making time for us again.
Good evening, Regina, Gretchen, Shawn. Happy All Saints Day.
Happy All Saints Day to you.
Is it? Ngayon, Kahapon, araw ni Manny Mugato. So, yun na kaibahan.
I don't think you're supposed to say Happy All Saints. There's nothing.
Kaya pala parang kumikinang ka.
It's correct. It's a somber event. Anyway,
ano bang costume nyo kahapon?
Ito na.
Anchors. Anchors. Let's take off from Senator Imee Marcos's statement. She has a point, you know. These two candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, have wildly different approaches to foreign policy. And during the campaign period, we have not heard much about what their approach is going to be as far as the South China Sea or China specifically is concerned. Let's take it from the lens of the Republicans first. Do you think the Philippines is ready for the possibility of a Trump 2.0?
Well, very close yung labanan. At ang magdedesisyon sa kung sino magiging presidente ng US is probably just a few thousand votes dun sa 7 swing states. Dun sa 7 swing states, yung less than 3% doon na undecided may determine the result of the election sa Electoral College. No? Clearly kasi sa popular vote, lamang si Kamala. Pero it doesn't matter eh. Hillary won the popular vote but lost the election. Si Vice President Gore won the popular vote but lost the Electoral College. So iba kasi yung sistema nila. Kaya it will come down to a few thousand votes, no? Dahil hindi naman katulad sa Pilipinas, no? Popularity or yung kung sino yung lamang sa national voting ang mananalo. Sa kanila, it's an Electoral College. And 7 swing states will determine who will win the Electoral College. And in those 7 swing states, less than 3% are undecided.
Yes.
No? So yun yung magiging kwan. At medyo lamang na kaunti si Trump dahil yung issue din sa 7 swing states na yan ay immigration at saka inflation. Siyempre, yung incumbent, medyo hindi masyadong lamang kung yun yung mga issues na pag-uusapan.
Yeah.
No? Pero yung statement ni Imee, I doubt kung yun ay magkakaroon ng difference dito sa ating rehiyon. Ang difference most probably will be in Europe, in Ukraine. Doon medyo significant ang difference between Kamala and ex-President Trump. Sa Middle East, halos pareho sila. Sa Southeast Asia, dito sa South China Sea, wala rin major difference. Lalo na kung titignan mo yung advisors nung dalawa. Yung advisors ni Kamala at saka yung advisors ni Trump. Baka nga mas critical pa si Trump sa China dahil mas malaking taxes yung gusto niyang i-impose sa mga Chinese products entering the US. So baka hindi pa nga magbago, baka mas lumala pa yung pagiging critical ni Trump sa China. Pero yung mga statements kasi ni Imee Marcos, I will take with a grain of salt. Dahil nitong past years, very pro-China si Imee at very critical sa US. Kaya ganun, hindi bago yung ganun mga statements niya.
Well, she does have a point that we have to turn our attention on this. And speaking of what you talked about, it does seem that they have a different handling on these conflicts. For Kamala Harris, with the current administration, they've been giving aid to Ukraine. Si Trump naman wants to take away aid from Ukraine.
Yes.
Raising tariffs is not the same as giving aid to a country such as the Philippines. For example, in our conflict in this region, kahit asan mo yung tax doon, pwede yung maging, kumbaga, parang sanction sa China. Pero that doesn't mean that if Donald Trump wins, he will send aid our way, which is what we need. Am I correct?
Well, I doubt kung magbabago ang policy ng US dito sa South China Sea, whether si Trump or si Kamala ang manalo. No? Hindi nila babaguhin yan. Ang babaguhin nila, again, yung usapin sa Ukraine at saka sa Europe. Ang laging sinasabi ni Trump, Europe should foot the bill, hindi kami. Wala siyang ganung statement dito sa South China Sea. Ang sinasabi ko lang, militarily, I doubt kung makakaroon ng pagbabago. Economically, baka mas maging critical si Trump sa China. Dahil ang kanyang posisyon is make America great again. At ang tingin niya, yung pagpasok ng mga cheap Chinese products sa US ay kumokontra dun sa kanyang narrative na MAGA. Make America Great Again. Kaya yun yung magiging difference nila. But militarily, in terms of aid, I doubt kung makakaroon ng major difference.
Actually, Ronald, yan din yung sinabi ni Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Babe Romualdez. Sabi nga niya, wala siyang nakikitang risk. He doesn't see any risk because the Mutual Defense Treaty, which was signed in 1951, is enduring. And he expects continuity in Trump 2.0. Apart from that, no, naalala mo, nung pumunta dito si Donald Trump noong 2017, he actually did reaffirm also that defense pact that we have with Washington.
Yes.
But can we expect that to continue with Trump 2.0? I see a lot of comparisons. Trump 1 versus Trump 2. Ikaw, anong nakikita mo?
Walang indication na magbabago yan. No? Walang indication. For now. No? Siyempre, iba na pag presidente ka na. Pero sa ngayon, sa campaign trail, sa mga advisors na pumapaligid sa kanila, yung kanilang kitchen cabinet na malamang maging cabinet kung sino man ang manalo, wala akong nakikitang indications ng pagbabago. Whether that is good or bad is another thing. Pero wala akong nakikitang ganung pagbabago. Yung usapin ng investments, mas hindi yan usapin lamang ng US. Usapin niya ng buong mundo. Halimbawa, sino mag-i-invest sa atin sa manufacturing kung tayo ang pinakamataas ang electricity cost dito sa buong rehiyon? Siyempre, magdadalawang isip sila para mag-invest. No? Mas ang problema natin yung ating comparative advantage. Mas pupunta yung mga tao sa Vietnam. Mas pupunta yung mga tao sa Indonesia. Dahil yung kanilang comparative advantage sa atin ay mas malaki ng hindi hamak. Ang kailangan nating i-improve ay yung ating comparative advantage. No? Infrastructure. No? At least sinusubukan nilang ayusin ngayon ang NAIA. No? Ikalawa ay corruption. No? Yan ay malaki pa yung kailangan nating gawin. Ikatlo, energy. No? Energy cost, no? etc. etc. So, yun yung kailangan nating ayusin. Build it and they will come. No? Kaya ang tingin ko, hindi lang ito usapin ng US. Usapin ito ng iba pang mga investors, whether yan ay European, whether yan ay Australian, whether yan ay Korean or Japanese. Mas yun yung kailangan nating ayusin.
Ronald, you're also right. You have a point. There's probably bipartisan support for whatever foreign policy either of these two candidates lay out. But the question there is yung level of engagement. So for instance, under US President Joe Biden, they increased the number of EDCA sites, right? So now we're at 9.
Yes.
And there's talk of building a Luzon economic corridor, plowing billions of dollars into building that Luzon economic corridor. As we know, Donald Trump is a lot more transactional than that. He judges the relationship with the countries by one metric only, which is trade. Do we have a trade surplus with you or not? And if we don't, he doesn't bother. He does the belief is that he won't bother with them, with those countries. So the question there is, do you think, at least from foreign policy wise, we will be able to maintain continuity with these EDCA sites, with the defense spending, with the defense aid from the US?
Yeah. Again, there are no indications na magbabago. Halimbawa, yung EDCA sites, that will remain. Ibang usapin kung dadagdagan ba yan. No? Ang issue kasi rito ay tatlo. Gretchen, Regina, at saka Shawn. Una ay yung freedom of navigation. Dyan, kahit sino maging presidente, ilalaban nila yan. Dahil $3 trillion a year ang trade na dumadaan dito sa South China Sea. So lahat yan, ipaglalaban nila yan. Ikalawa, yung West Philippine Sea. Pero yung West Philippine Sea issue na nanalo tayo sa UNCLOS ay nakadikit sa usapin ng freedom of navigation. No? So hindi mo maihiwalayan. Yung ikatlo, yung pwede mong ihiwalay ng kaunti, yung usapin ng Taiwan. No? Doon siguro may kaunting difference si Kamala at saka si Trump. Ang sinasabi ni Trump, dagdagan naman ng Taiwan yung kanilang military spending para hindi lang kami ang magbabuffer sa kanila. Hindi lang kami ang magsusuporta sa kanila. No? Si Kamala medyo tahimik doon. Si Biden ang very open na sinabi for the first time in 30 years, 30, 40 years, for the first time, isang US president sinabi that they will defend Taiwan militarily. Yun yung
Wait.
first time in 40 years
Okay.
na may presidente na nagsabi nun.
Okay,
No?
Ronald.
So, yun yung pwedeng maging difference, yung Taiwan issue.
Okay, tabi
Pero yung
natin yung
freedom of
Taiwan.
navigation, yung West Philippine Sea, tingin ko walang indication na magbabago yung policy ng US dyan.
Okay. Bigla ko naalala, Ronald, no, habang sinasabi mo yung military spending, back towards, I think, the end of July, after the SONA of President Marcos, nagkaroon ng maraming news about this 500 million na dapat makukuha natin in
Military
defense
aid.
aid. Right. Well, apparently, hindi pa raw siya napipirmahan. Tingin mo, saan to mas malaking chance na mapirmahan? Or it doesn't matter sino manalo sa Amerika, mapipirmahan ba to? Or it doesn't matter sinong manalo kasi hindi pa rin siya mapipirmahan?
Tingin ko pipirmahan yon. Kung hindi pa napirmahan, hindi ako updated doon eh. Pero either napirmahan na yan or pipirmahan na. Dahil hindi naman ganun ka-significant yung $500 million. Mas ang problema natin ay absorptive capacity. Halimbawa, ba't naman tayo bibigyan ng mga fighter jets? Ang training ng mga Top Gun pilots ay mga 8 to 10 years. So, ibig sabihin, bago ka bigyan nun, kailangan mag-train ka muna ng mga Top Gun pilots. Halimbawa, ba't ka naman bibigyan ng submarine? Ang training ng submariners are 8 years. No? So, ibig sabihin, kahit may mga high-powered military equipments na pwede tayong i-access, wala naman tayong absorptive capacity at this point. No? Yung mga rockets lang nga na pinadala sa atin ng India, no? Ay yung Brahma missiles, kinakailangan pa dyan ng training ng mga magpapatakbo. So hindi lang siya simpleng usapin ng meron ba tayong aasahan na military hardware sa US at sa kanilang mga allies. Mas usapin dyan, paano natin i-accelerate yung ating absorptive capacity para tayo ay magamit natin yung mga yan. Sabi nga ni Danny Lim, dati, nung graduate siya ng West Point, sabi niya sa akin, ang dami naming pinag-aralan sa West Point, pero hindi ko naman magamit dito dahil wala naman tayo ng mga tangke ng mga armored personnel carrier na pinag-aralan namin sa West Point. So, yun yung isa ring napakahalaga na usapin. Yung ating capacity para hawakan itong mga posibleng mas advanced military weaponry.
Senator Imee Marcos has offered us a chance to reflect on our relationship with the United States. Personally, Ronald, are you happy with what we've been getting from the United States so far? Putting that into perspective and also putting the economic investments into perspective, and also questions on whether the U.S. will really come to our aid pagka nagkainitan sa West Philippine Sea.
Well, una, for my vantage point, ang pangko pa rin kasi is diplomacy and peace. No? Ang weakness ng China ay hindi military. Ang weakness ng China ay economic. Dahil yung buong economy nila ay nakalink sa global economy. Kung magagalit yung global economy sa China for being aggressive dito sa West Philippine Sea, dito sa freedom of navigation sa South China Sea, then tatamaan yung kanilang economy. At kung tatamaan yung economy, yan yung mas mahalagang pressure point rather than military. At the same time, dapat naman na meron tayong military defensive capacity. Kahit we renounce war as an instrument of foreign policy. Malinaw yan sa ating constitution. No? Maliban pa sa wala naman tayong chance ang manalo sa China. So, at the very least, kailangan natin mag-scale up ng defensive capability. Pero not in 100 years na makakahabol tayo militarily sa China. Mas ang ating pang-pressure sa China ay economic. Diplomacy, yun yung ating pressure. At doon yung vulnerability ng China.
Ronald, if my co-anchors don't have any more questions on the U.S. presidential elections, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about domestic politics naman. I know you've digested yung latest Octa survey.
Yes.
Sabi ni, was it Professor Ranjit Rai who said we can comfortably call it a trend now, the fact that VP Sara Duterte's numbers, trust and performance numbers have declined. Ano yung basa mo doon? What do you think of it?
Well, debate pa yung ibig sabihin ng trend eh. Halimbawa, some survey firms ayaw gamitin yung salitang trend dahil it might affect yung objectivity ng mga survey firms. Dahil yung survey firms, ang ginagawa nila, snapshot at a particular moment. No? Kaya yung iba ayaw magbigay ng analysis ng trending. Yung Okta, mas komportable sila. Ang sabi nila, 2 successive surveys may entail a trend. Pero whether yung mga survey firms ay makakaiba ng position sa trend, ang malinaw, this past few months ay lahat ng surveys ay dramatically bumaba si Vice President Sara. Whether that is SWS, whether that is Pulse, whether that is Oculum, whether that is WR Numero, whether that is Okta, whether that is even the friendly Publicus, friendly kay Sara, lahat ng yan ay dramatic yung kanyang pagbaba consistently. So if I were Sara, magpapanik ako. Lalo na kung may ambisyon ako tumakbo sa 2028. No? So yun yung pareho o consistent sa lahat ng surveys. Ikalawa, very consistent din sa lahat ng survey, although yung iba mas malaki yung ibinaba ni Sara kesa sa iba. Halimbawa, SWS Pulse, WR Numero, mas mataas ang binaba ni Sara kesa halimbawa sa Okta. So some have bigger margins than the others. Pero pare-pareho silang dramatic yung pagbaba consistently in successive surveys na ginawa nila. No? Yung ikalawa ay kung i-deconstruct natin yung survey, very significant yung pagbaba ni Sara sa Class D. Iba kasi yung Class D sa A, B, C, tsaka E. Yung Class D ay 80% ng botante. Kaya kung bumaba si Sara ng 7% sa Class D at tumaas siya ng 5% sa E, that is apples and oranges. No? Baliwala yung E dahil it's practically just 10% of voters. Yung D ang 80% mahigit. So, dun yung medyo dramatic. Kalawa ay NCR, National Capital Region at saka Balanced Luzon. No? Dahil 2/3 ng boto ng bansa dyan ang gagaling. Halimbawa, dito sa Okta, bumaba ng 13 points sa NCR at 9 points sa Balanced Luzon. That is significant. Dahil yung taas ni Sara sa Mindanao can no longer get any higher. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya pwedeng tumaburon para pampuno sa Balanced Luzon, NCR at saka Visayas na patuloy siyang bumababa dahil yung Mindanao niya ay hindi natataas. At most probably magsisimula ng bumaba as a law of political gravity. Dahil pag ikaw ay sobrang taas na, wala ka ng choice kundi bumaba. Yun yung problema ni Sara. Pero ang pinakamahalaga sa survey ay ipakita yung snapshot sa moment para ikaw ay mag-adjust ng strategy. Kahit bumababa si Sara consistently sa lahat ng surveys nitong past few months, ay wala akong nakikitang adjustment sa strategy. No? At least wala pa.
Ronald,
Dapat kasi pag ganyan, nag-a-adjust ka na, baka magkaroon ka ng free fall eh. Kung yan ay maging trend, according to Okta, at yan ay maging free fall in the next 2 survey, mahihirapan ka ng makabawi.
Actually, Ronald, last night, no, alam ko yesterday nakausap niyo si Professor Ranjit Rai ng Okta. Kagabi naman, nakausap namin si Professor Guido ng Okta rin. Regina asked him a question. Sabi niya, have you ever seen, kasi he kept stressing na pwede magbago. It's dynamic. Yeah. Pwedeng magbago bigla, no? Kasi opinion niya ng tao. And you're right, it's a snapshot in time. So if you take a snapshot at another time, technically dapat pwede yan magbago. Ang tanong ni Regina, may nakita ka na bang ganon? That someone was able to reverse the numbers and make a comeback?
Point.
Yes. Napabaliktad ha, yung tumaas bigla. At ano bang pwedeng gawin para magyari yon? Like you were saying, you have to shift strategy. What kind of strategy can achieve that?
Well, dapat kasi ma-realize nila, if they have circumspection, dapat ma-realize nila, yung luma nilang estilo ay hindi na umuubra. Baka laos na. No? Yun yung kailangan nilang ubra. Yung kanilang method in the madness ay hindi na umuubra. Halimbawa, saan ba nagsimula si Sara last no 2023? 89%. Ilan na lang siya ngayon? 59%. And continues to go down. That is 40% difference, no? Since last year. So dapat kasi nag-a-adjust ka na. Dahil hindi na umuubra yung dati mong estilo. Baka hindi pa dyan kasama, Shawn, hindi pa dyan kasama yung Halloween press con niya. Yung dalawang Halloween press con. Ang kasama pa lang dyan ay yung budget hearing sa Congress. Kaya halos sigurado ko, next survey ay patuloy siyang bababa.
Could it be
Dahil
that,
hindi pa dyan nakasama, yung tingin ko will have another negative impact sa kanyang mga surveys.
Okay.
No? Kaya whether yan ay mare-reverse, lahat naman posible. Pero in all probability, may hirapan. Dahil hindi lang ito usapin ng strategy or tactics. Hindi lang ito usapin ng mga advisors. Usapin ito ng katauhan eh. Baka yung leopard, may hirapang magbago ng kanyang spots sa kanyang balat. Baka yun yung problema nila Sara at saka ni Digo.
You did say anything is possible. So, but sorry, Ronald, we're gonna have to leave it there kasi we have to go to another interview. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll talk about this another day. Political analyst Ronald Llamas.
Saint Ronald.
Saint Ronald.
All Saints Day.
Anong costume mo?
Yan na yun. May halo na. Well, up next, authorities raid the so-called mother of all POGO hubs in Adriatico, Manila. We'll get more details from PAOK spokesperson Winston Casio. When the big story returns, stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Just this morning, authorities raided what they called the mother of all POGO hubs in the city of Manila. And joining us tonight for this discussion is PAOK spokesperson Winston Casio. Magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi po, ladies, and it's nice to be back.
Okay. First of all, tell us all about the mother of all POGO hubs. Lagi na lang natin naririnig yan, ano? Pero what makes this the mother of all POGO hubs? And is that different from what was raided near the Senate building?
You're probably referring to a different raid that was conducted by a different agency. Kasi what we conducted was a raid in the 2.6 hectare that we raided early yesterday dito po sa Bataan. So I haven't heard of this particular POGO hub that was raided in Adriatico. Most likely, ang nag-raid po dito would be the National Bureau of Investigation and or the PNP and CRPO.
Okay, with the one in Bataan, sa Bagak, Bataan, correct? It's called Central 1.
Yes, ma'am.
I got a little confused because, well, first of all, tell me how that played out. And secondly, they said they're a BPO, not a POGO hub. So there's a bit of confusion there. Can you clear that up for us?
Well, they claim to be a BPO. Kaya lang, based on the information that we have gotten from intelligence sources and based on the surveillance that we have done, as well as the interviews we have conducted with our civilian deponents, the ones who would stand as witnesses and or complainants against Central One, they're engaged in on-site, online gambling, online sports betting, so to speak. And indeed, we have seen it. You're showing it now on the screen. Nakita po namin yung mga iba't ibang cell phones that are indicative of betting. So they claim to be a back office, a business process outsource as far as their different locators, their different clients are concerned. But yan, yung nakikita po nyo, that's Winbox. That is one of the most prolific and infamous cryptocurrency hub or platform or gaming platform, investment platform that are being used by different unscrupulous individuals and organizations worldwide. In fact, that Winbox is banned in many countries because it's a very gray area in relation to regulation. Diyan ho pumapasok yung mga money laundering scams and proceeds ng mga criminal organizations. Ang daming red flags. I could go on and on and on about the red flags and different violations in relation to Central One.
Okay, but hold on a second. But sports betting in itself is not illegal. So
sports betting in itself is not illegal.
Yeah.
But then again, the permit for that particular agency is
A
a business
BPO.
process
Correct.
outsource, not an offshore gaming operation.
Okay, so they didn't have the POGO license, but they had the BPO license, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Wala silang lisensya sa PAGCOR, yun yung lumabas sa news report, no, Director Casio.
Yes,
But-
ma'am.
Right.
Now,
Okay, mas concerning sa akin, Director Casio, yung nangyari sa Porac, yung parang naabisuhan yung mga tao. So, when you guys arrived, it was empty. I understand, malaking complex din to sa Bagak. Pagdating nyo, mukha bang naabisuhan yung mga tao, na alert, na parating na kayo, natanggal ba nila yung mga hard drive? Because those are the issues that you had in your previous raids.
I don't think so. This time around, I don't think so. We got more than 900 Filipinos. We took note of all of their names, their biometrical information, their cell phone numbers, and everything. We identified, separated the team leaders of the among the Filipinos, and we would subpoena them later on for interviews as we build cases against Central 1 Bataan. Now, we were able to get 42 foreign nationals, and we informed the public that as per the initial information that we've gotten from the different embassies, one of them, an Indonesian, is a fugitive in Indonesia with a standing warrant of arrest from as dated September 2024 for online fraud. And it's basically an indicative that many of these BPOs, quote-unquote BPOs, or special class of BPOs, are becoming, how would I say it, a refuge for many of these scammers.
Hey, spokes, is this POGO that hid under a new license, or did it get a BPO license in the first place? Kasi yun nga yung issue, no, kung nagtatago sila sa ibang classification na.
Ganun nga yata ang nangyayari dito, no? So, a good number of the gaming operations, offshore gaming operations, are hiding behind the veneer of being BPOs, back office jobs for gaming operations. But no, dito po sa Central 1 Bataan, Plainview, kitang-kita that they are receiving bets and they are dispensing winnings, so to speak. Kaya lang ayon po doon sa ating mga deponents, sa ating mga witnesses na mga Pilipino nagtatrabaho po dyan, na siyang naging dahilan kung bakit nabigyan kami ng search warrant, as far as online betting is concerned, may game fixing na nangyayari. So, isang parte ng scamming po ito. Kapag masyado ng malaki, yung perang napapanalunan, hindi na po nagkakaroon ng payout. Ulitin ko po, base sa mga nakita namin sa kanilang mga financial technology platforms, naglalabas-masok ang pera. Hindi po sila back office. Sila po mismo ang nagpapataya, sila po mismo ang nagpe-payout.
Would you know which games are involved here?
Yeah, would you know which one?
Which games are they betting on?
Basically, any games ng target market are South Asians. Mga Bangladeshi, mga Pakistanis, Indians, and even Nepalese. So nakikita namin mga ball games, basically.
Basketball games. Okay, but how did it get its license in the first place? Hindi po ba na-inspeksyonan ito? Paano naitago?
Ladies, ganito po kasi. This is one of the gray areas that needs to be resolved by the national government and by the legislature. Authority of the Freeport area of Bataan has the authority to give master licenses and or gaming licenses. But, there is a caveat. But they must be able to obtain a secondary permit or a license coming from PAGCOR. Hindi ho ito katulad ng, for example, CESA. CESA is able to provide gaming licenses without the need for a secondary permit from PAGCOR. But as far as the charter of APAB is concerned, once they provide gaming licenses, they need to obtain a permit coming from PAGCOR to allow their locators to operate as such.
Right.
Dito sa pagkakataong ito, wala po.
Oo, kakaiba talaga yung kapangyarihan ng CESA na naungkat na yan sa mga Senate hearings. Pero Director Casio, one other concern, is there any evidence na itong Bataan POGO na ni-raid ninyo ay konektado dun sa mga iba pang POGO na na-raid ninyo sa Lapu-Lapu, sa Porac, sa Bamban? Is there any kind of evidence as early as now?
That's too early to say po. Nung tinitinan ko po plain view, yung mga computers, nung tinignan ko po yung mga reports, that's too early to tell. In fact, nung dinidevelop ko po itong operation na ito, together with our operations head, wala akong makitang red flags or connection, correlation to the other POGOs that we have raided. But then again, it may be too early to tell. We'd have to take a look kung anong kalalabasan ng aming investigation as we proceed.
So we have no idea if it's foreigners that are the masterminds of this POGO, or
But,
is it a Filipino?
No. We've gotten we caught the foreigners, the financiers. We knew who we were looking for. We knew who to look for and where to look for them.
Yeah.
So nakuha po natin yung ating tatlo sa mga subjects, yung 3 Malaysian nationals na importante sa aming operation, nakuha po natin. The CEO and the Shaw couple po yata, yung mag-asawang yon na manager at may-ari ng isa sa mga locators doon. Ang dami hong red flags dito. Ladies, what I could say at this point is, itong particular na raid po natin, this is obviously engaged in black market digital currency trading. So yun pong nakakatakot. Kasi they are an online bank on their own. Without the proper regulation. Alam naman po natin yung cryptocurrency ay napakahirap i-regulate. Kaya yan ang favorite playground ng mga kriminal. Diyan naglalabas-masok yung mga pera na ninolaunder ng mga criminal organizations. And we saw that here in Central 1, Bataan. It's all over Central 1, Bataan.
Okay, so money laundering is also happening apart from yung mga illegal and unlicensed
alleged
money laundering. Is that what you're looking at?
Director Kasha, the last time we spoke to you was the day actually that we found out that Alice Guo had escaped undetected. I wonder if you could give us an update on that case. Diba you were looking as well into how she managed to leave the country and also what her linkages are to the rest of these POGO hubs around the nation.
But unfortunately, ma'am, with regards to Alice Guo, in as much as we are a task force, the investigation as to how she was able to escape the Philippines, we deferred to the Bureau of Immigration for that particular investigation. Because as you have seen since the last time we spoke, PAOK has been very busy operating almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to be able to ensure that we're able to meet the President's deadline on the 31st of December. So I apologize. I think the question should be best addressed to the Bureau of Immigration at this point.
Folks, 2 months left to get all of these POGOs out. What is our latest on that?
Ladies, I hate to tell you, I hate to break this news. We still have 100 more to go. 100 more to go. 111, in fact, based on the list that we have obtained from the PAGCOR and from our intelligence sources. We still have 111 more illegal offshore gaming operations to raid and to close down. That's why the different agencies, the NBI, the PNP, PAOK, and so on and so forth, we're doing this almost on a weekly basis na. Nakita nyo naman yung news that you falsely attributed to PAOK, no? So the different agencies are doing our best to meet the deadline set by the President.
So I don't understand. Why do you have to go and personally raid all of these? The ban was announced by the President. We got word that some of these operations had voluntarily surrendered their licenses and turned in the workers' visas. So, itong 111, who are they? Like,
unlicensed ba?
Yeah,
yung mga illegal.
Yes, these are unlicensed.
Oh, okay.
These are former licensed POGOs that became unlicensed last July 2023 when PAGCOR, through their new leadership under Chairman Al Tenco, created a new IGL framework. Pero sa halip po na umalis, nagpatuloy po sila. At yung mga IGL naman po na lisensyado, 37 of them are left. No? Technically, dapat wala na talagang betting. Kasi ang sabi po ni Presidente noong July 22, he was banning it from then on. So hindi niya sinabing stop by December 31. Ang sinabi ng Presidente, stop now. Ito na yung simula ng banning. So, and mind you, ladies, noong October 15, lahat po ng mga working visas ng mga IGL workers have been downgraded to tourist visas.
Correct.
They have 59 days to wind down their affairs and leave the Philippines. That doesn't mean that the 59 days from October 16 onwards grants them the license to be able to still work in POGOs or IGLs. Yan po yung kinalulungkot namin. Kasi may 37 pa pong natitira sa halip na mag-wind down, patuloy pa pong nag-ooperate.
Pero Director Casio, parang mas nakakatakot yung may nakalista pa kayong 111 illegals, yung mga hindi pumasa, no? Nung nag-crackdown si PAGCOR at ginawang IGL yung mga POGO licenses kasi naging mas strict, di ba? Ngayon, dun sa mga illegal, alam natin na may 111, pero in your opinion, do you think there's more than that pa na hindi pa natin natutuntunan?
I wouldn't want to go down a rabbit hole, so to speak. No? Ayaw ko pong manghula at this point. What we have are reports of the 111 plus the 37 legal. So let's see. We'll do our best, ladies. I'd like to inform the general public na the President is very adamant as far as this banning is concerned. As such, the Executive Secretary, being our chairman of PAOK, is constantly reminding us not to get tired, no? Kasi minsan nakakapagod din talaga no? But we're doing our best. We're doing our best.
Oh, you have your work cut out for you until the rest of the year ends.
And check back in with you in December to see how many more you've got to go, how many more you have to reign.
We will be honest when December 31 comes.
Right. Thank you so much.
We won't hide anything from you.
Thank you very much for your service and for joining us tonight. PAOK spokesperson Winston Casio.
Okay, we're going to go on a quick break for now, but right after that, the death toll due to severe tropical storm Christine and super typhoon Leon has risen to 150. More on that when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You are still on the big story here on One News.
A sprawling facility inside the Freeport zone in Bataan was raided by authorities, as mentioned earlier, who says the company was really operating a scam and a POGO hub. But the CEO denied this, insisting they had a legitimate BPO license. More on the story with Camille Samontes' report.
This 2-hectare compound of call center company Central One in Bagak, Bataan came under surveillance by the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission or PAOK for almost a month. PAOK says they were tipped off about the presence of POGO operations there. Yesterday, armed with a search warrant, operatives raided the place. They found cell phones and computers downloaded with online betting apps such as sports betting, video carrera, live casino, and slot machines. Each device also had software that was used in cryptocurrency scamming. Some computers even show withdrawals and deposits from betting games from other countries.
So lahat ng sugal, nandito, pero hindi pasok ito sa PAGCOR, hindi rin alam ng Pilipinas na magpalaro sila rito.
According to PAOK, foreigners are these POGO's main clientele. They are now investigating to see if the company committed money laundering.
Merong platform doon na parang GCash sa IT room nila, yung paglabas-pasok ng pera. Again, this is offshore gaming. Kasi merong withdrawal, may deposit. So obviously may nagpapataya rito.
Some employees admitted to News 5 that they knew their work was illegal. To ensure they don't get located, they use VPNs or virtual private networks.
Ang ginagawa namin talaga totally is withdrawal of accounts, and pero nung una is depo of accounts ng mga betting sites, like may mga laro kami. Yung pera na ginagamit is MYR, Malaysian ringgit.
All in all, employees of Central One totaled nearly 900 Filipinos and 42 foreigners. The Filipinos were sent home for now as PAOK studies who among them will face charges of fraud. But PAOK brought all the foreign workers to Pasay to face charges of violation of immigration laws. To be clear, Central One had a permit to operate as a business process outsourcing company. It was also granted a permit by the Bataan Investment Promotion Authorities. But PAOK insists it needed to have a secondary permit for PAGCOR. The CEO of Central One has denied allegations they were running a POGO hub and also says they complied with DOLE laws. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
In weather news, Batanes bore the brunt of Super Typhoon Leon, which has left severe damage across the province. Initial assessment by the Batanes LGU accounted for major damage on buildings, houses, and crops, as well as landslides on major roads. This includes the historic Santa Maria de Mayan Church, which has survived earthquakes but did not survive the heavy rains and strong winds from Leon. Despite the trail of destruction, no casualties have been reported so far. However, electricity in the islands has yet to be fully restored.
Wala ho yung power namin nung bagyo. At pero ngayon po, mabilis po yung restoration po nila ng ilaw. Dito sa Pasco ay siguro mga 50% mayroon ng power. Okay. Pero sa ibang lugar ay yung Sabtang Island, wala pa kanina. Yung Itbayat ay wala pa rin kaninang maga.
The reported death toll due to severe tropical storm Christine and Super Typhoon Leon stands at 150, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Christine and Leon have affected 7.5 million people in 17 regions. Damage to agriculture alone has breached 4 billion pesos, while the estimated damage to infrastructure is now estimated at almost 7 billion pesos.
Before we go off to the weekend, here is our big picture for tonight. The festivals of light and dark have coincidentally fallen on the same day this year, 2024. I'm talking about the Festival of Lights known as Diwali, which is celebrated by Sikhs. Diwali. Okay, thank you, Reg, for correcting me. Celebrated by Sikhs, Hindus, and Jains around the world who say that it symbolizes the triumph of good over evil. This year also marks the first time that in this century that the festival coincides with Halloween. So both Diwali and Halloween on October 31. So what happens when a festival that celebrates good over evil and all things spooky coincide? Well, you have the hashtag Diwaloween or Diwaleen. Posts and videos have been shared online on how to celebrate both occasions at the same time, just like tutorials on crafting items that symbolize both the festivals. And just like these Diwaloween inspired pumpkin decor.
It's a hashtag, Diwaloween. It's just a bit of a tongue twister, Diwaloween.
Okay, so one W is a V and one W is a W. Yeah. So
Diwali is the most important festival in the
for Hindus,
for Indians in their calendar, because and the story behind it, the idea behind it is really beautiful. It's the celebration of the triumph of good over evil, the celebration of lights. Right, and then you have Halloween, and then also it's the Mexican Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. So I don't know what's happening in the world that all of these
what an apt lesson though
celebrations
have
to
our country.
Yeah,
right? Over the past two tropical storms, Typhoon, we have the rest of our weekend to reflect on it, to recover, to pause for a quick while, and
to visit the graves of our departed loved ones.
Yeah, and of course,
it's good news that we don't have rains over.
Yeah, it's quite good weather today. Right? But of course, there's also quite a significant Filipino-Indian population. So I'm sure that's what they've been celebrating yesterday while we were trick-or-treating.
Diwali or Halloween? Or both?
Or both. Probably both.
What if you're also Mexican, Indian?
Oh dear.
Catholic.
Sanay naman tayong mga Pilipino maging mixed.
Former President Trump greeting the Hindus, the Hindu population over in the United States. Sinasabi niya na he's been very supportive of the Hindus, trying to get their favor and their votes, which reminds us that after the calm of the next days, we will be heading to the U.S. presidential election.
The wife of his vice presidential candidate is Indian, don't forget. Yes. So they have that. Yeah. So the wife of J.D. Vance is Indian.
It's not just Kamala.
No, Kamala is only one-fourth or one-half.
But the wife of
the wife
JD
is Indian American, so it feels like he might have a lock on that vote, but we don't know. As Ronald was saying, it's a dead heat.
It is.
It's going to be either way, and it's going to be exciting.
And the thing is, we won't find out yet, right after. So
Super
we have to still wait.
Super tight.
But one thing's for sure.
Monday.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Wednesday here.
Wednesday morning our
Wednesday
time.
here.
So we'll do a special coverage in the U.S. elections, and we'll explain all about the Electoral College.
Okay, so we better get off to the weekend because it looks like next week's going to be pretty loaded. So that's it for the big story this week.
In the meantime, please do enjoy and rest over the weekend. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Festival of Light. Celebrate light. Thank you for watching. Have a good night and a great weekend.